At 4:47 p.m. local time, a Russian Su-34 fullback lifted off from Saki Air Base in Crimea on what its crew assumed would be another routine strike. The pilot and weapons systems officer had flown this profile dozens of times. The sortie would last under 40 minutes. Wheels up, glide release, back in time for dinner. What they didn't know was that they had been under observation from the instant their landing gear left the runway. 18 kilometers inside Ukrainian territory, concealed along a tree line with its radar silent, a Ukrainian Patriot battery had been waiting for this exact flight path. The Su-34 climbed through 15,000 feet on heading 330 degrees, engines steady at cruise power. The pilot scanned the threat warning receiver. Nothing unusual, just a routine sweep of distant Ukrainian search radars. No spikes, no fire control locks. The electronic warfare panel glowed green. The Khibiny U electronic countermeasure pods mounted on each wingtip were armed and ready, but there was nothing yet to jam. At 18,000 feet, the WSO began configuring release parameters for UMPK glide kits attached to two FAB 1500 bombs, 62 kilometers to the launch basket, 11 minutes to weapons release. The coordinates were preloaded. A grid square in central Kherson, identified by Russian intelligence as a Ukrainian command node. Whether it was military infrastructure or a residential building wasn't part of his decision loop. His task was to deliver steel on coordinates. Leveling at 24,000 feet, the pilot reduced throttle to conserve fuel. Airspeed stabilized at 870 km/h. The aircraft ran cold, no radar emissions, no data link chatter, no unnecessary transmissions. Standard penetration protocol. The quieter you are, the harder you are to detect. Or so they believed. Even in emission silence, the Su-34 radiated heat. Ukrainian passive sensors along the coast had tracked that thermal signature since it crossed the shoreline. The crew thought they were invisible. In reality, they were a flare in the dark. Inside the concealed tree line, the Patriot battery commander studied his passive track. 21 minutes of observation. A steady heading, stable altitude, predictable geometry. Opportunities like this are rare. In a career, maybe one or two. But passive tracking came with a problem. Thermal estimation alone left a margin of error, bearing 210 degrees plus or minus 4. At 90 kilometers, that uncertainty widened into a 12-kilometer corridor of sky. No missile could be guided into a 12-kilometer guess. The only way to tighten the solution was to activate the radar. He ordered a 3-second burst. The C-band phased array snapped to life. In 3 seconds, it painted the target at 88 kilometers, altitude 18,000 feet. The uncertainty shrank dramatically, but not enough for a firing solution. The radar went dark again. 3 seconds was enough. An Orlan-10 reconnaissance drone orbiting 800 meters overhead captured the emission. Its signals intelligence payload logged the radar signature and transmitted the data to Russian fire coordination units. A brief flash, but distinctive. Within a minute, the first Russian FPV drone appeared, skimming toward the tree line at 110 km/h. Cheap, agile, carrying a small explosive charge and a live camera feed. A Ukrainian Bukovel electronic warfare vehicle, positioned nearby, detected the incoming signal and projected a focused jamming beam. The drone's video feed dissolved into static. It spiraled into a field. But jamming broadcasts your presence. A second drone came, jammed. A third shifted frequencies, probing on 2.4 GHz. The Russians were testing defenses, mapping the electronic footprint. Each interception revealed a little more about what was hidden in the trees. A Ukrainian FPV team, operating from a basement 600 meters behind the battery, began hunting the operators by triangulating the direction of each signal spike. They located one Russian team behind a concrete barrier. A Ukrainian drone dove. The feed cut. Another Russian team replaced them almost immediately. The probes intensified. The Su-34 climbed through 22,000 feet. 8 minutes to engagement window. The commander ordered a second radar burst. 4 seconds. Clean return. Range 81 kilometers. Closing speed 14.5 kilometer per minute. Track quality improved, but still flagged degraded. One longer emission would finalize the solution. This time the Orlan identified more than just a radar. It captured the pulse repetition interval, the radar's unique rhythm. The signature matched known profiles. Patriot. That changed everything. The volume of incoming drones surged 5-6 from multiple angles. The Bukhavel's temperature climbed under sustained load. One drone slipped through a narrow gap in the jamming arc. Ukrainian defenders intercepted it meters from a launcher, detonating in the underbrush. Then the ground trembled. A BM-21 Grad system launched a full salvo, 40 rockets in under 10 seconds, aimed at the general emission area. The rockets fell wide, scattering north of the battery, close enough to rattle vehicles but not score a hit. Ukrainian counter-battery radar tracked the trajectories and relayed coordinates to a 150 mm howitzer unit, equipped with GPS-guided shells. Within minutes, precision rounds struck near the Grad's launch site, forcing displacement. The Su-34 reached 24,000 feet, 90 seconds to release basket. At 5:21 p.m, the Patriot radar went live and stayed live. Lock achieved at 73 kilometers. The first PAC-2 interceptor roared skyward, accelerating beyond Mach 4. Russian sensors across the theatre now had a continuous Patriot beam to home in on. In the cockpit, the Su-34's warning receiver erupted. Fire control lock. The pilot rolled hard into a descending defensive turn, pulling 6 Gs. The Khibiny pods activated, transmitting deceptive signals to distort range and angle calculations. Chaff cartridges ejected in metallic clouds. On the ground, the Patriot crew began immediate displacement procedures. Cables pulled, vehicles primed, but the radar had to remain active. Without illumination, the missile would lose guidance. 30 seconds to intercept. The missile detonated roughly 60 meters from the bomber. The fragmentation pattern dispersed too widely. The aircraft shuddered but remained flyable. Systems flickered. Both bombs still attached. The pilot chose to continue. The commander authorized a second interceptor. Radar exposure now exceeded 40 seconds. Russian fire units would be recalculating coordinates. The second missile detonated closer. Fragments tore into the fuselage. Hydraulic warnings lit up. Engine temperatures rose. Speed dropped. Still airborne. Still inbound. The commander faced a choice: conserve interceptors and relocate, or finish the engagement. He launched 3 in rapid succession. 3 missiles created overlapping geometry from different vectors. The bomber, slower now and low on countermeasures, attempted another break. This time, the Patriot system had 90 seconds of behavioral data. It adapted. The first of the 3 detonated within 15 meters of the left wing. Control surfaces shredded. Hydraulic pressure collapsed. The second explosion followed beneath the fuselage. Structural failure cascaded. The aircraft rolled uncontrollably and disintegrated over the Black Sea. The FAB-1500s never released. On the ground, the radar shut down. The mast folded. Vehicles dispersed along pre-planned routes. Moments later, Russian rockets impacted an empty patch of Earth where the battery had stood minutes before. The engagement lasted barely 4 minutes from first interceptor to final impact. In modern air defense warfare, survival is measured in seconds. Radar emissions draw fire. Every shot reveals your position. Every delay risks civilian lives. Recent battles across Ukraine have shown an accelerating evolution in this duel. Aircraft employing standoff glide bombs from 60-70 kilometers away, and air defense units forced to operate under constant drone and artillery threat. Mobility, electronic deception, and rapid displacement now matter as much as missile accuracy. That evening, 1 bomber did not return to Crimea. 1 city avoided destruction, and 1 Patriot battery survived long enough to fight another day.